ever heard this podcast one time, but if you have the gumption just to walk up with a few hundred people and just say, you know what, cut a promo for my podcast, I will assume that you have good moxie. I will assume that the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast is a good one. I haven't heard a minute of it, but I'm assuming it's great.
Check
and I
us
can't
out.
wait to listen to it.
Check us out.
Cheers, man. Good luck out there.
Welcome to the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast, where we help you take the next step in your fantasy journey. Here's your host.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Jordan, your head is really big on my screen. Not your fault, though. You're good. How you doing?
I guess great.
We're joined again by Jordan. Jordan, how is whatever you were doing last week?
I had all a hodgepodge of stuff the last couple of weeks, but I am back. I'm here, and I'm excited to be back.
That's what we like to hear. Let me just fix your noggin here.
I'll back up.
No, don't. We don't want you to fix I don't want you to back up. You almost look great. I had to rearrange everything. For anyone who isn't familiar, I had to rearrange everything because last week we had our friend Don, and Don did a great job, may I say. Do you agree, Jordan?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I didn't know that was a question. I thought you were just going to continue. Yes, Don did an excellent job. Thank you for joining, Don. Excellent. To talk about your home team as well, the Bucks.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. But it's good to have Jordan back. No Adam again. Like I mentioned last week, it is football season. So starting to get
Just
to
like
football
that,
season.
back on us.
So it's going to be hard to get a hold of everyone. Joey's in the chat. We're live on YouTube, youtube.com/Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. Joey's in here, dropping my phone again. I think that's just like every week. We're a hot mess here.
You're going to give listeners a heart attack.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
That is just... Whew. And co-hosts.
And co-host. John asked, Jordan, did you like Don's WWE call-out from last week?
No. This is what are we doing? 80% of our shows are WWE shows.
I know.
We should just switch it. What do you want to talk about, Jake? Let's talk about
let me
WWE.
Let me tell you, it is a Friday show this week, just because, and that means SmackDown is starting in 22 minutes, Jordan.
All right.
What we should have done,
hurry up.
Jordan, what we should have done is waited 22 minutes and then just watched it live and talked about it as it happened.
All right, can we move on? Why do we always do this? Why does this always happen?
All right. It's the NFC South. Jordan, do you have news that you would like to start with?
The only thing I'm curious your thoughts on, Jake, is Brandon Ayuk requesting a trade out of San Francisco.
Do you think it happens? That's the question, right? If I was a betting man, I'd say no.
Yeah, but like how often does it happen that a player of that caliber requests a trade and it doesn't happen? Like literally across any sport.
I guess, yeah.
Like if they're unhappy there, like, I feel like it shouldn't happen. Like it would be a bummer because him on the 49ers is great. But I just feel like it's going to happen because when you have star players like that who have done right by the organization asking for a trade, it happens.
So where would you like to see him go?
Oh, man. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be something like Pittsburgh.
It's going to be something really, like, just a bummer for fans. He's going to New England.
Yeah.
Just something boring. Like, hate it. So, yes, that is big news. It's probably something we're going to have to follow along with as the weeks get going here. Because, there's just no way of saying it. It's a bummer for fantasy because it obviously hurts everyone on the Niners that we'll talk about here in a sec.
Yeah. The only other thing, and this is all speculation now, but Devonta Adams kind of talking, maybe I'll reunite with Aaron in New York, and I don't want to necessarily get into that drama, but I'm curious, Jake, what your thoughts are if you think that'll actually happen.
I think by the trade deadline, which is what week 8, week 9, the Jets would be dumb not to if the Raiders were bad. They'd be pretty dumb to not give it a try. I don't know what
you think that the Jets are going to be better than the Raiders?
I do. We've talked about that.
I think it's the same team.
Oh, no. The Jets are on paper, The Jets are a much better team.
On paper, yeah. On paper. I'm so low on the Jets. It is not even funny. All right.
Okay. All right.
That's not what we're here to talk about.
Oh, I have something sad.
Uh-oh.
I know. Kind of a bummer. Also, fix your blurriness. Did you see that Jacoby Jones passed away?
I did see that.
That's such a bummer.
That's tragic.
Only
That's tragic.
40.
Yeah.
That's such a... Of course, known for multiple great plays. The kick return in the Super Bowl. I'm trying to think of the big play over Raheem Morris? Or no. I don't know. Against the Denver Broncos on the deep pass from Joe Flacco. And then he was also the punt returner on that play where Mike Tomlin tripped him. Remember that?
No, I didn't even realize that.
Down the sideline. Yeah, that's him too. So some pretty iconic stuff. Quite a pretty good returner, right? Pretty good returner.
Just some iconic moments.
Yeah, a guy. Aqib Talib, yes, a guy who was he a great receiver? No, he wasn't. Let's be honest, right? But there's 3 off the top of our head iconic moments.
And there are not very many players that I could just off the top of my head, boom,
Name
boom, boom,
3.
hit some iconic plays
So,
like that. So
super sad, no information on it, but it doesn't really matter. The point is kind of a bummer. That's the second week in a row now that we've started off with someone passing away, which sucks.
I know.
Let's stop that. No more of that. But we bring you the news because that's what we do here. Jordan, do you want to get into the NFC South? East, West? Oh my gosh, the NFC West.
I don't want to get into. I only want to get into the NFC West.
Oh my gosh, Jordan! I know Jordan. You listened to the episode last week, correct?
Yeah, sure did.
Did you watch it?
No, I did not.
Oh, there was a hot moment where I was scrolling through teams, and I'm just hitting every wrong team in the book. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I did hear that when I was listening to it, and
Yes.
I figured as much that there was some technical difficulties.
It was a hot mess, just a hot mess. Yeah, let's get into the NFC West. Our last 4 teams. Is there a team that you would like to start with?
Arizona Cardinals.
The Arizona Cardinals. Jordan, I don't even have all your... Jordan, as we mentioned, has done a very great job at putting together great lists for us to be able to bring you guys information, and I don't even have any of them up. So I'm so sorry. So why don't you start us off?
Rude.
I know. Why don't you start us off while I slowly try to get this back up with Kyler Murray. And what are your thoughts on Kyler Murray?
So Kyler Murray is a weird one for me. And the reason is because the talent is there. It just is weird in Arizona.
It
like
sure
he had
is.
Cliff Kingsbury, and that was weird. And then kind of they were like, oh, maybe
And
no
that
more
was
Kyler
weird.
Murray. Yeah, no more Kyler Murray. And then he only played 8 games, injured, coming back, 8 games. And he did just fine in 8 games. He had some 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 more rushing touchdowns. And he ended up finishing as quarterback 26. I think his ceiling is high. He's getting drafted right now as quarterback 10, though. And to me, that's his ceiling. That would be an excellent, excellent year out of Kyler Murray, in my opinion, to be quarterback 10. So he's going in the 8th round. We kind of talk about quarterbacks a little bit when we're in the 8th round and we're looking at quarterbacks for the, you and I probably aren't looking at quarterbacks for the first time in the 8th round. We might be waiting a little bit longer.
It might be the first time that you're looking at it and you're like, all right, well, maybe I could get
hey, maybe there's a quarterback here. Brock Purdy is kind of going right after him. I think I'd rather have Kyler than Brock Purdy. We'll talk about him shortly. Jaden Daniels. Would you rather have Kyler or Jaden Daniels? Jake?
I don't really like Jaden Daniels in the 8th, so.
Well,
that has to have gone up since we last talked about it.
Yeah, this is in the 10th, but he's the next quarterback up.
All right.
I'm kind of talking about who's coming. So
Yeah.
I like Kyler's spot. I'd love him a little bit more in the 9th or 10th, but I'd rather have him over Brock Purdy and Jaden Daniels as far as a player.
I would agree. Like you said, this is his ceiling right now, right? And I don't want to take him. I don't want to draft anybody at their ceiling unless you're taking it's the first round, right? I don't want to draft anyone at their ceiling. So it's what this ADP is telling me is that it's more likely that he's going to disappoint than he's going to actually hit this. Because I don't think
Go ahead. How much of this do you think is Marvin Harrison hype, which we'll obviously get to here?
Yeah, that's probably high.
Who's getting drafted as wide receiver 10?
That's nuts.
Right now. Yeah. Part of me is also like, that's everyone's ceiling. Like when I'm looking at this offense, Trey McBride is tight end 3. Sorry, I'm skipping around. Trey McBride is tight end 3. Marvin Harrison is tight end 10. Kyler Murray is QB 10. Is like the Cardinals are humming. That is like what that.
Yeah,
that's
it really is. People
ceiling.
are excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have that kind of faith in a defensive head coach? Well, yeah. That's
I'm worried.
I'm worried. I'm worried.
So I don't have a problem with the ADP. I just don't really like where it is. Like I'd like it to be smaller or to be higher. I want it to or lower. I want it to lower. So I'd rather have him in that Kirk Cousins area. I do, but I get the hype. I do. I get it. That's a tricky one. I'm going to be honest. I feel really tricky on. Like I don't exactly know what to say on that guy.
No, I like what you said, and I think that kind of sticks with me. Is like you don't want to draft anyone at their ceiling, and this is a good example of it. Yeah. You'll love the player. You think he could achieve his ceiling. He has some awesome weapons. You're excited about the offense, but are you going to take a player at his ceiling? No, that's not good value. That's not good value in the draft. Value. Yeah. I like that as a strategy. Let me just tell you. Sorry, we're spending a lot of time on Kyler, but let me just tell you who is getting drafted around him, and I'm curious.
I almost just dropped my phone again.
What are you doing? Put it away. Pay attention
it's not
to me,
that. Jim. It's okay. Pay attention. You're not giving me enough of your time.
Yeah. Pay attention to me. Would you rather have Dak or Kyler?
I'd rather have Dak.
What about George Kittle?
Well, I mean what?
That's who's getting drafted right after him.
I mean, it depends what you need. I don't think you could.
Jordan Love.
See that's trying to take the homer out of me, right? Man, I might lean Kyler on that.
All right. See, well then he's in the right spot. So if you're taking a 8th round guy, you might be looking squarely at Dak, Kyler, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow are all.
But I'd rather have Burrow over Kyler. Yeah. So, kind of that's where I'm at.
I agree with that.
So, all right, let's keep moving on. We got James Conner, Mr. Consistent, which is not something you would have said a while ago. But a guy who, he's good to miss 4 games a year, that's for sure. But he's going to get the bulk of the carries, you would think. Being drafted in the 9th round, or running back 24, finishes running back 18 last year. I like this ADP. This is a good ADP for him because he's got Trey Benson, the rookie, right behind him. He's going 2 rounds later. My only nerves here is that when James Conner inevitably gets hurt, is Benson going to just take this from him and never give it back?
It's Ken Walker of whatever 2 years ago, whenever Ken Walker was a rookie, and we were like, oh, it's still Rashad Penny's backfield. And then, Rashad Penny gets hurt, injured, immediately Ken Walker takes over, and never looks back. And that's that. And I think that's what will happen. So I think James Conner, you're drafting him for the first weeks of the season, and I don't want to draft anyone for that. I'm a playoffs guy. It's all about the playoffs. So I'd rather have Trey Benson here.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. Yeah. I mean, my only thought would be if you're running back heavy and you're liking what your team looks like, I don't hate having a guy that is going to be good. You got to get to the playoffs too. That's awesome, I thought. So, but I if you had to ask me which strategy I'd rather lean towards, I would agree with you. Give me the guy that I think is younger, probably a little bit more better.
Just healthier. He's gonna play, so you could get a few points out of him early in the season. But if you're drafting him in the 11th round, he's a bench guy anyway, so he's just depth. Correct. And then he could find his way up
You're right. You're 100%
lineup.
100%. Yeah. So I probably end up with 11th round Trey Benson more than I will 9th round James Conner. Yeah. But if you're starving at running back, let's say, you went quarterback and receiver heavy in the start, and you went tight end, you're going 0 running back. I do like a James Conner 9th round, though, if that's the strategy you're going. But you might want to consider turning around and taking Benson the next round.
As a handcuff.
Yeah. I think there will be some teams that do that. which is taking both of them. But we'll see. Moving
Won't be me.
Moving to receivers, let's talk about the second receiver on the team. So we got Michael Wilson, had a quiet 500 yards last year, going in the 6th round. We don't really care. We've talked about those round receivers. Sure, why not? Give it a shot, right? Yep. But I will say for me, that's a tier below like Jahan Dotson, who's going in the 14th round. Like that's a difference to me.
Yes, that matters.
Someone in the chat says Greg Dortch will be a lottery pick as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. Again,
could be
certainly possible.
Could be.
I don't know Dortch's ADP off the top of my head, but I will say, sure, give it a shot. Late round, absolutely. We saw him produce at a decent level, wide receiver 4 level last year when they had no receivers who were healthy. So we've seen him. It's kind of all just shot in the darks, right?
Yeah, 23rd round, undrafted.
Okay, yeah.
Is Greg Dortch right now. Yeah.
But if you had to ask me which one was being drafted earlier, I wouldn't have been able to tell you.
Yeah. Zay Jones is there too. I forgot about him.
Zay Jones. So take a fire at any of those guys because someone's got to be the wide receiver 2 there. So, what I'm gonna do, Jordan, is I'm gonna tell you why you should draft Marvin Harrison at 2-6 wide receiver 10. Okay.
Okay.
Generational talent. We've seen these guys come in before. Jamar Chase, right? Trying to think off the top of my head. Odell Beckham came in really hot.
Of course, Odell.
You love some Odell. Love some Odell. Oh man, I'm just drawing. Can you help me here? Some big name receivers that were high
recently, like Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, okay. And they've produced as rookies, and they've been in the 2nd round. And I think that there's a case for Marvin Harrison going into his rookie year, being more hyped or better than Garrett Wilson's another one, than all those guys. Having more hype than all of them. And I think that right now, with a decent quarterback, it's not a terrible offense, and you could actually get return out of 2-6 wide receiver 10. He could finish in the top 6, I think.
Wow. That is a hot take. Do you care to book something like that, Jake?
I don't, because just for the sake of this argument, I'm being the one telling you why you should do it. Now,
I don't.
Hold on. Now, let me say this. I'm going to agree with what Jordan's about to say.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry.
Come on. Believe in something, Jake. Wow.
It's going to be hard to live up to that ADP and explain why.
Okay, well, no, then I'm gonna take the other side, Jake. I'm all about it. I agree with your take. Do you know who's going around him? Who's going around him?
I just want you to say that last week, Don and I didn't argue at all. Just saying.
Wow, invite him back, Jake. Replace me. Yeah. Sorry, Don. You're more than welcome anytime. I don't know why I'm throwing shade at you for no reason. Let me tell you, Jake, why that your original take was correct, and it's less about the hype of the Cardinals offense, and it's more about the other guys that are going in the 2nd round. Devontae Adams, I'd rather have Marvin Harrison. Chris Olave, I'd rather have Marvin Harrison. Nico Collins, I think I'd rather have Marvin Harrison. The upside, I agree with you, is so high. I kind of know what I'm getting out of those other guys. Devontae Adams, who's throwing him the ball?
It doesn't matter.
Adams is on the wrong side of 30.
It has never mattered who's throwing
Jake,
the ball.
Receivers over the age of 30.
He's like,
never. They just do not have 1,500 yard seasons. They don't.
Well, neither is Marvin Harrison.
Brandon Marshall in 2015. Yeah, and then Marvin Harrison Sr. did it over the age of 30. No one else. So you're looking at guys who are Devontae Adams. I love him. He's going to get 100 receptions, but he's like they're going to be dink and dunks maybe. I think they're going to throw the ball 280 times to him, and he's only going to catch 70 of them because the quarterback plays so bad.
Okay, Minshew mania.
Chris Olave. I love Chris Olave. He doesn't score touchdowns. He just doesn't. He scores like 2 touchdowns a year, 3 touchdowns a year. To me,
you want Marvin Harrison being your running back 1 on your team?
My wide receiver 1. Yeah, come on down.
Oh, no.
Over Devontae Adams?
I would much rather have Adams. Joey said Adams, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon all over Marvin Harrison.
I agree on the running backs. I don't agree on Devontae Adams.
Who are the next receivers? You said Chris Olave,
Drake London, Nico Collins, Debo.
I think I'd rather have Harrison over just the last two you mentioned.
Nico and Debo.
Yeah. Well, that might even change now with Ayuk out the door. So
yeah,
I'd much rather have London for sure.
With recovering Kirk Cousins
Yes.
thrown to him.
Yes.
I like it. I'm not. This
Would you rather?
Sounds bad because I'm not knocking.
Where's
it.
Garrett Wilson
what
going?
a terrible pick. Garrett Wilson is going ahead of them.
Where?
He is going at 2-1.
He's going 5 picks ahead. So would you rather have Garrett Wilson? The Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Why? A guy with a quarterback who's coming off an injury? See what I'm saying?
Well, Garrett Wilson's done it.
So
Garrett
has Devontae Adams.
No. They're different situations. The comparison to me is more like Drake London and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has proven that he can catch 1,000 yards, have a 1,000-yard season. Drake London has not. We're hyped about the upside.
Oh my goodness! All right,
they're different. You got to look at the whole.
So
situation,
do you actually
Jake.
now? Are you just making this take, or do you actually feel this way?
I'll book it, Jake.
That what?
Marvin Harrison, top 10 wide receiver at the end of the year.
Okay, all right, that's fun.
What, you don't like that?
I'd rather you book that he'll be better than those guys being taken right now, or after him. He will finish higher than Devontae Adams and Chris Olave and
Marvin
Drake
Harrison
London
will
and
finish
Debo.
higher than Devontae. Well, the other ones I feel less strongly about. I'm saying the guys who are getting drafted before him. It's Devontae Adams, and I'd rather have Devontae Adams and Chris Olave. So I'll book that. Marvin Harrison will finish higher than Devontae Adams and Chris Olave.
See, that's a good book at Jordan. Thank you for learning how to do that. That was good. You've done a good. Well, we've talked about your book.
Your last book was Saquon Barkley will have a good year football-wise, but will be disappointing in fantasy.
That is a good book.
What kind of book is that?
Okay.
Moving on. There's nothing tangible.
We're already at 21 minutes and we've got one team done. Who's next?
Okay. Moving on.
Oh, wait, no. Oh, God. Tight end 1, Trey McBride. What a monster second half of the season. Kyler Murray just peppered him with targets. I love Trey McBride. Honestly, I feel he is going to be tight end 1. I understand that Marvin Harrison's wide receiver 1 on this team. I think it'll take a little time. I think they're still going to pepper Trey McBride with targets. We've seen him perform very well out of Colorado State. And he's young. Like, there's not a tight end that I want more than Trey McBride in fantasy this year.
All right, I disagree, but you got to book that. He'll be tight end 1 over Travis Kelce.
Yeah, sure.
Mark Andrews.
See, that's a good book. You see what I'm saying?
That's a great book.
Honestly, I think he'll end up with the most targets out of any tight end as well.
Well, that's less impressive than we'll finish tight end 1.
All right. I don't hate it. I also love the ADP. I think that's another part of it too. I know he's tight end 3, but I think he'll finish higher. I do. I just the targets are where it's at, especially in PPR, half-point PPR leagues.
You're taking a 5th-round tight end?
It is the only time I'll consider doing it, yeah.
Wow.
I'm not doing it for Kelce.
High on Trey McBride. I like it.
All
right, let's move on.
All right, where are we going?
Rams, come on.
Matthew Stafford. Love me some Matthew Stafford. I always have. You know I have. Love the football player. Played 15 games, finished as quarterback 15. Going in the 14th round, I really like this. I really do. Like, if you this, in my ideal world, let's say, and I'm drafting, I am taking a guy like Tua in the 10th, whatever it is, and I'm taking Matthew Stafford at the 14th and loving it. Yeah. Because there's no reason Matthew Stafford cannot start for your team. He has stupid good wide receivers. Hopefully continued a really good running back. There's no reason this offense can't be really good.
Yeah, I'm totally with you here. Your backup, your second quarterback being Matthew Stafford is like my ideal. I'm probably going to end up with that in like most leagues.
There's a case that you could end up just waiting and just having him as your quarterback 1.
Having Matthew Stafford as
the only downside is that, if you miss out on him, you're pretty screwed after that. And you're going to end up with Derek Carr. But, man, if you could get Stafford in the 14th round and a Derek Carr in the 16th and you just roll with that, there's worse ways of doing it. Joey says, healthy Matthew Stafford will give you 6 to 7 top 5 performances throughout the season. Top 5.
So true.
And it's true because why don't we talk about the receivers? Puka Nacua coming out of nowhere, having nearly 1,500 yards, and then Cooper Kupp. So, of those two, Puka going at 110 right now, and Cooper Kupp going at 4.2, which is wide receiver 19. Which one do you prefer to go with?
Cooper Kupp 100 times.
Excellent. 100. I'll agree with you. Let me just talk about Puka Nacua. Then 110, fine. I don't hate it. I really don't. Do you hate it?
I do hate it.
Okay, then why don't you talk about that?
The reason I hate it is because we didn't have a healthy Cooper Kupp for the times that Puka was like exploding.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part about this, is assuming Cooper Kupp comes back healthy, who is the number one target? And I think that is actually an open question.
Puka. It was Puka.
That is an open question. But you know, Cooper Kupp's banged up. He's in and out of the lineup. I think so. The question is, who is the number one target? And that is an open question. Yeah. I don't think it's sealed that it's for sure Puka Nacua. And so for that reason, I'm nervous about a first-round ADP, where all the other guys in the first round are like locked in. Like, you know, even in the second round, it's like first and second round, it's like there's no question about who's the number one. And that's why that's what makes me a little bit nervous about it. I think he deserves to be a first or second round pick. Like, he had an excellent season last year, and assuming he continues. But Cooper Kupp coming back healthy, he has all this experience with Matt Stafford. Cooper Kupp is, 2 years removed from, not almost. He had an historic season.
Yeah.
And so that for me is one where if he comes back and Cooper Kupp even steals 30 targets, I'd rather have Cooper Kupp in the fourth than, we're not even talking about like huge target shares. Like if he just takes 30 receptions away from Puka, they're like even.
Yeah, I'd much rather have Cooper Kupp's ADP.
Yeah.
Okay, fourth round, we've seen this guy perform very well. He has the history of soft tissue issues going back to last year. He hurts it in training camp, pushes it to come back, then re-hurts it, misses the first few games. This is when Puka is just going nuts. And also worth mentioning that Puka was like the only receiver they were throwing to, or that they had. Granted, they didn't know they had him at the time, and then he comes back. He's just trying to work his way back, right? He was never probably healthy that entire year.
Yeah.
So, and still had 750 yards on 59 catches and 5 touchdowns. So, him and Stafford have a connection. I love Cooper Kupp's ADP here because we've seen it. I mean, being drafted as wide receiver 19, so that's a low-end wide receiver 2. Give me that. I like that. Because he could be your wide receiver 1 on your team.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a strategy out there where you go running back like the old school, to take your quarterback, and then you end up with Cooper Kupp as your wide receiver 1. I don't hate that at all.
That's a fun time.
Yeah.
That's a fun time.
Talk about the tight end, Colby Parkinson. You're not drafting him, so let's just not worry about it.
Tyler Higbee is also in there. Yeah.
Running back. So we got Kieran Williams, comes out of nowhere, has 1,350 all-purpose yards. He's being drafted as wide receiver 7. He finishes running back 6. Excuse me. The 12 touchdowns were pretty high.
15. He had 3 receiving.
Oh, that's right, 15.
Yeah.
Do you think he replicates that? Or do you think Blake Corum out of Michigan, they drafted in the 3rd round, who has a 12th round ADP, makes his presence known?
I don't think Blake. I think it's Williams' backfield. Like, he proved it last year. What's not sustainable is 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so I think even if you have a great season, and he only played 12 games, so like let's say he comes back and has like 1,500 all-purpose yards, 1,600 all-purpose yards, like he is the bell cow and he performs, but he has half the touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
We're already out of the, we're close to the top 10. We're an RB2. Like, that's great. So I'm cautious here at this point.
Also
I think he's great.
Here.
I think we're over drafting him because of the touchdowns. It's very Jonathan Taylor, like 22 touchdowns or whatever. Like, it's hard to repeat that.
Yeah. I think that Corum does end up having some sort of role. We've seen Sean McVay have multiple running backs in a system before. I mean, that's how Kieran Williams got on the out there. I mean, Cam Akers, I'm thinking back. Yeah. Like, there's been lots of different running backs. So I think he does have a role. I don't think he returns running back 7 numbers. But
I think it could be running back 14, and this is a ceiling. We're drafting him at a ceiling,
and I don't like that.
And I'm staying away from guys that I'm drafting at.
Also, I think that this 210 thing is odd because in a 10-man league, that's implying that someone went probably CMC to start, and I'm not taking CMC and then Kieran Williams. So
yeah,
I just not a fan. Just not. Darrell Henderson is the other guy I was thinking of random running backs the Rams have had.
Yeah. Would you rather have Devon A-Chain?
Yeah, I'd rather have A-Chain.
What about Derrick Henry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I'd rather have Henry. I'd rather go Williams. I'd rather go A-Chain. We talked about that during the AFC South. Go watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/Fantasy Football Podcast. That the hype on A-Chain is too high for me right now.
What about Travis Etienne?
Yeah, I'd rather have Etienne.
So those guys are going later.
Yeah.
That's like 6 picks later.
Yeah.
Is Travis Etienne 5, 6 picks, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne. So you're saying that's too high. You would take Debo here and then kind of jump along to another running back later, which I get. Seems right.
Yep. All right, let's move on. What's the next team?
Let's do the Seahawks.
All right, Geno Smith.
And let's end on the 49ers.
All right, Geno Smith. 16th round. Sure. I'd much rather have Matthew Stafford, though, in that spot. What's there to talk about? He's got a decent receiver, a pretty good receiving core. But we know what Geno Smith is, right? It was nice to see him, rebound and have another good year. He's a good football player, I think we've figured out. Fantasy-wise, he's not really winning you very many games.
He's quarterback, too.
He's right in that Derek Carr range. So let's not spend too much time on that.
I love that Derek Carr is just the constant, most mid.
Yeah, he is the most mid.
Yeah.
Noah Fant at tight end. Again, 19th round guy. You're probably not taking him.
Moving on.
Give me Ken Walker as running back 16, finishes running back 19 in the 6th round. Do you love him?
Do I love him?
Yes.
I mean, sure. I like him. He's
okay.
Fine. That's a great.
That's my
6th
thought
round.
too.
You're filling out your roster. You're looking in the 6th round. I need a running
back.
He's
the most mid running back 2, and that's exactly what he is, and that's what he's being drafted as. Yeah. I think that's his floor. I also think his floor is right here, running back 16, and his ceiling is running back 10, I guess, right? If he gets those touchdown numbers up, and he had 8 of them, right? Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Other guys going around him though are like Joe Mixon, James Cook, Alvin Kamara. I think I'd rather have all those guys over Kamara.
I agree.
And some of them are even going after it. Ramondre Stevenson might be the only one I'd be flipping a coin with.
Yeah. Why don't you tell? Why don't you make sense of this wide receiver core?
Oh, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
This one, the touchdowns is what this is like. Hard. It's hard to pin this down.
Mm-hmm.
So this past year, DK, I think the most talent is DK.
Yes.
He is obviously the most talented. He's a beast. He breaks off huge runs. All about the yak.
All about the yak.
Yeah. Versus Tyler Lockett, who's all about the reception, so PPR. It's just totally. It's super difficult to pin down. So last year, DK finished as wide receiver 16. Tyler Lockett finished as wide receiver 33. JSN finished as wide receiver 48. You assume JSN gets a bump now that he's coming back for a second year. Who does that hurt? Probably Tyler Lockett. Probably. But maybe both.
I could see.
Right? You kind of play this game a little bit. I'm probably not drafting any of them, with the exception of if I get into double-digit rounds, so 10, 11, 12, 13, and I'm looking at some of these other ones, you're taking a chance that Tyler Lockett starts scoring a bunch of touchdowns and gets a lot of receptions, or JSN makes a huge jump.
Yeah.
But that's it. If I'm still in single-digit rounds, I'm not taking any Seahawks receiver.
Yeah, I don't hate DK in the 6th, or I'm sorry, in the 4th. He's being drafted as a high-end wide receiver 3, so I like that. But you're right. Just the guys going around him, I'm probably not ending up with him too much there. I like Lockett. I honestly, the later the round guy, the more I like it. I like Lockett there. I think we could see these numbers for all 3 of them be relatively the same again this year. barring injury, which is, nearly 1,200 yards and some touchdowns for DK, and then some sort between 600 and 900 yards for both JSN and both Tyler Lockett.
I mean, we're talking about guys also going in the 4th round, and we just talked about Cooper Kupp, and I'm taking Cooper Kupp. Way before DK.
Yeah.
DJ Moore is going. We're taking him way before.
I'm taking him
Smith.
Before. Yeah.
Right. Stephon Diggs is maybe. How high are you on Stephon Diggs in Houston? Like, all of those guys, I feel like, with the exception of Stephon Diggs, have like a more clear path. Than DK does. So.
All right, let's move on to the last one, number 32. All right, let's keep her moving here because we're already cooking. Let's talk about CMC. He is far and above the best running back in the NFL. He is far and above the best fantasy player in the NFL. If you have the first pick, don't be dumb. Don't get cute. Just take him.
But Jake.
No.
Jake, the history matters here.
Oh, my God.
Nobody has gone back-to-back running back ones.
And this guy is the only one who I would say, yeah, I think he's going to do it. There's nothing that says he shouldn't. He's also been the only guy who's done things that other people have never done. 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard rusher. There's no way you're taking someone else.
What about... I'm not saying let's take Saquon, but remember Saquon?
I do remember Saquon.
And he finished as running back 1, and we were like, don't be dumb. And he... Where is he now?
He's in Philadelphia.
What about... Yeah, okay. Austin Eckler, 2022.
Okay, tell me I'm wrong.
You'd be dumb not to take
That's fine.
him.
Go ahead and tell the people I'm wrong then.
I'm just saying it's the right pick, but I've learned my lesson. Last year I said don't be dumb, take Jonathan Taylor. Why would you take anyone else? And someone in a league took CMC, and Jake, on this podcast we laughed at them.
Yeah, but Jonathan Taylor didn't get hurt. He went through all the other stuff. The trade and or wanting to be traded and all that stuff.
Yeah, but he didn't repeat. We were all like, yeah, you got to take Jonathan Taylor. Why would you ever take someone else?
Yeah, that was Joey in the chat who did that, by the way.
Yeah, and Joey, I'm sorry, we were like, why would you do that? Blah blah blah. And now we're a year removed.
I feel like that is completely different.
All I'm trying to say is, you're right. It is the right number 1 pick. But I've learned my lesson, Joey. I'm so sorry. If you wanted to roll the dice on someone else that you thought you had a really good feeling about, you could do it, and I'm not gonna laugh.
Who is it? Who are you gonna not laugh at? You're gonna if someone takes Justin Jefferson, you laugh.
CD,
yes.
Jamar Chase, Bijan. Someone's gonna come in and take Bijan number 1 overall.
Oh,
I just
God.
know it.
I
just know it. Jake, this happened last year. You have to learn. We have to be better.
I have done a lot of drafts, let me tell you, and I have yet to see anybody not take CMC.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I'm saying it's the right call. It's the right number 1 pick. It's the right number 1 overall. He had an excellent year, and he was leaps and bounds above the next one. But I'm learning from the history of the podcast the last decade, Jake. No one has repeated it. So you're saying we're making history.
We are going to make history,
which is fine. But I would book that CMC won't finish as RB1, but that's kind of a weak booking.
Go ahead. It's fine. I'll allow it because I think he is going to.
Well, all right.
Head-to-head. Just a head-to-head one.
That's a good head-to-head.
All right, let's talk about Brock Purdy. Finishes as quarterback 6, being drafted as quarterback 11, so he's being drafted right in that same Kirk Cousins area.
No, this is way before Kirk Cousins.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this in the 2 range? Where is this right now?
This is like in the Jordan Love range.
Okay. Here's the thing. I think Brock Purdy is a good football player. He might be a great football player. Fantasy-wise, he was really good last year. Most likely, if he loses Brandon Ayuk, it's going to be really bad for him. I think that matters. I think that you're losing a 1,300-yard receiver. So, which, by the way, I just got to say, I don't know about you, Jordan, but did that happen quietly for you last year? I had no idea. It just went over my head how good he was.
Yeah, he was excellent.
It was
excellent. It did for me too.
At my house, I just didn't realize it. So
yeah.
So here's the thing: 10th round, I'd rather have Jordan Love. I'd rather have those quarterbacks that we just mentioned going around him, because I don't think he repeats as quarterback 6. I think his floor or his ceiling is right here around quarterback 10. So Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for
well,
thanks.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Let me tell you the other guys that are going around him, because this Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray are the three above. Then it's Brock, Jared Goff, Tua, Jaden Daniels. Three after.
Yeah, I'd rather have all of them.
You'd rather have all 6 of them over Brock.
Yes.
All right, I would too.
If he loses,
I
Brandon
love
Ayuk.
Brock. Oh, if he loses Brandon Ayuk, yes, for sure.
The rest,
and that's the risk we're playing right now.
Yeah.
We're drafting as if so the risks.
If we're talking about today, that matters. I'm going to take the sure thing probably over all this without knowing what Brandon Ayuk's do. You put Brock Purdy down the board.
Yep.
Because who do you replace it? Do you replace him with? You can't just assume that Ricky Pearsall, who we have in the flex going in the 18th round, will just step in and fill that hole. He seems really good, like the player, but you just don't know. Currently ADP 18th round. I bet you that goes up.
If Brandon Ayuk leaves, that goes way
I think
up.
in drafts in the next few weeks that's going to go up, especially if this gets, if this doesn't happen quickly. So I like Ricky Pearsall if you can get him in the 14th. Like, it depends how high it goes up, but currently going in the 18th, but I would expect that to go up.
But you think QB 11, running back 1, wide receiver 14, wide receiver 15, tight end 8. Like, do you think San Francisco offense is giving us all that?
No, I don't.
That's my, again, this is like, we're same with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
We're just putting everyone at their max ceiling here, and we're saying this whole offense is going to overperform or be basically equal to what they were last year, and that's
here's the thing. Let's talk about the receivers then. Brandon Ayuk, today, if I'm drafting him, it depends on what kind of league. I think that matters. Like, if you're in a high stakes money league and you're spending $500 buy-in, I'm probably not drafting Ayuk. I just won't do it. Or if you're in something that, whether it's money or pride or bragging rights, I'm not doing it because I don't know what is going to happen with him. If you're in a free one or something where you don't care as much, then sure, give it a whim because you're like, it'll be fine, right? No. Because it matters. If he goes to the Patriots, he's not going to have 1,300 yards, I don't think.
Probably not.
No. And being drafted in the 3rd round, that's just too high for something we don't know.
Yeah.
Right now, Debo's being drafted at 3-2, right next to him, and I want him to stay there if Brandon Ayuk leaves. That's a decent ADP to me. I'm surprised it's this high right now. Before the Brandon Ayuk news, I wouldn't like Debo at 3-2.
Yeah, I wonder if it's changed since. I'm looking right now.
But right now, I would assume Ayuk has fallen, but at 3-2, I like Brandon Ayuk, your wide receiver 2 on your team. I don't really want him as my wide receiver 1, but I don't want that to go up. And if it doesn't go up, then I like it.
Yeah, it has not changed.
Excellent. And then let's talk about George Kittle, right in that 8th round, right in that Dallas Goedert range, tight end 5. What do you think?
I love this.
Okay.
I love this way more than Trey McBride in the 3rd or 4th.
Okay, all right.
Like
it's
this,
the 5th.
George Kittle is the 8th. That is the first time. And George Kittle in the 8th. If I'm sitting in the 8th, I don't have a tight end, and George Kittle's sitting there. That's the first time I'm like, I should take a tight end.
Okay.
Realistically, someone would take him probably before that, and then I'm, again, sitting back to, my 10th, 11th, 12th round tight ends, my David Njoku's that are coming on my team.
Yeah.
But George Kittle is the first kind of the upper tier tight end, and I'm like, you know what? I'll take him.
Yeah, if you're fading, as Joey said, if you're fading tight ends into the 8th round, Kittle is a steal there.
Yes.
Because he will give you elite weeks.
Yes, as long as he stays healthy.
As long as
that's kind of the name of the game, I guess, for anyone. But
yeah.
He has that injury concern.
So there we have it, guys. That is all 32 teams, fantasy relevant players. Woo! We are done with that. That is.
Way to go, Jake.
Wait, Jordan, you did a good job too, man. Adam was here for some of it. Don was here for some of it. Anyone who's been in the chat with us for every one of these episodes, we appreciate it. Next week, we will break down the June league. Jordan will be there. I don't know what the plan is fully because I am on vacation.
Vacation, so Jake.
We're gonna have to figure it out, but we'll be here next week in some sort of capacity. If you want to follow us on YouTube, youtube.com/Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast, we go live, so you can watch it along with us. And we're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. Jordan, unless there's anything else you would like to say.
Congratulations, Jake, on finishing.
Oh, hold on.
All 30.
Also, congratulations, Jordan. We hit 100 episodes. This is episode 101 that will be going up.
101. We're like a college class now, 101.
So we will. we really appreciate everyone who's been doing this. This is year 3 of this, so we really appreciate you guys being here. It's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun, and here's the 3 more years. So, Jordan, anything else? I'm sorry, you said something, but I don't remember.
I every week I try and think of something I'm going to say, but you now got me twice. You can't ask me the same question twice. That's just rude.
All right, then
take care. Be good.
Then be quiet, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care. Be good.
Listening to the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. Follow and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube at the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast.